Travel is surging in the United States in these summer months, but from staffing shortages to funding challenges and severe climate-related issues, the Federal Aviation Administration is facing numerous problems that it must address. And two separate FAA bills are hitting the House floor for a vote this week, which are meant to address some of those issues. They're both expected to be slowed down by a number of issues and with a significant amount of time built in for amendments to be added. More than 300 amendments, in fact, are up for consideration. Let's bring in now Boyd Group International President Mike Boyd to discuss more. There's a lot to consider here, Mike. Among things, changing retirement age for pilots, changing the amount of time they can spend flying, etc. When it comes to pilots, what do you think is most important here? What are people paying the most attention to?
Having any change in the pilot hours rule, 1,500 hours, which makes sense, except there's no responsibility for saying what that training would be. But this both of the bills, and we've looked at both bills in detail, 800 and some boring pages of them, and you're looking at a lot of things in there that are just pork or things that don't make any sense. Some Congress people want to regulate the pay of the people who clean airports. That's not even aviation. So cutting down to it, I think we're going to have pretty much what we had before. There's not going to be any major changes the consumer is going to notice.
Well, what is necessary to pass through? I know there was also a letter sent from both the CEOs of Alaska Airlines, American and United, to the House saying they're concerned about the FAA bill, concerned it's being derailed by kind of efforts to just change slot and perimeter rules. What do you think of that?
Well, that's the issue of Washington Reagan National and how far you can fly and how many long haul routes they can put there. That shouldn't even be part of this right now. That should be out of it. That's a separate issue. It's an important issue, and everybody has an opinion on it. But that should not be in this bill to hold it up at all. That should be looked at separately. It's very parochial, and quite frankly, it's just really not professional.
So what do you think is going to be the outcome of this bill when all is said and done, given that there are all these maybe parochial things thrown in?
Well, for us mere mortals out here in TV land, it's not going to make a whole lot of difference one way or the other. There's a lot of pork in it. They're not changing the things they need to change, like wasting money on essential air service to fly to places people don't go anyway. Grant programs like that. But if you look through it, there are so many little codicils, and every congressperson, it seems, has their own pet ones they're trying to slide into it. So I think getting into conference on these two bills is really going to be quite an interesting shootout.
And Mike, I want to ask you though about one of the challenges that you see as a traveler and in us covering this. We've seen a lot of issues with just the reduction in the number of flights. Is there anything in these bills that addresses kind of opening up more airspace to these airlines?
Well, they're not cutting back because of lack of airspace. We got lots and lots and lots of airspace. What's happening is they're cutting back because our air traffic control system is so poorly managed, it can't handle the situation. United just cut 7,000 flights out of its Newark schedule for this fall because the air traffic control system can't handle it. It's gotten worse and worse, and all we get is pablum on that. So that's not going to improve anything. But it's not the airlines or airspace, it's the problem, even pilots. It has to do with an air traffic control system that just, frankly, is politically managed rather than functionally managed.
And how does one fix that? We've talked to the Secretary of Transportation, and he's talked about the need to fix it. So where does that need to come from?
In 1994, a partner and I testified to Congress on this, and the discussion is still pretty much the same. Buttigieg comes out and talks about he's going to hire more people, do this, do that. The real issue is we got to depoliticize the FAA. The last person nominated had no qualifications whatsoever. We need to find someone who can really run the place and know the business. But as long as politicians like Schumer and others get involved and try to put political hacks in there, it's just not going to work. We don't have a future for it.
One thing that I know this is not kind of as much a part of this conversation, but it's something that, that the Biden administration has talked a lot about is the junk fees, like baggage, et cetera, et cetera. Has the government done enough with regard to that?
Well, they're putting out, quite frankly, jive saying, you got to disclose everything. Go on any website of any U.S. carrier, they disclose everything today before you hit that button. So that argument that you'll get sudden fees that you didn't know about, that's just not true. I don't know why they keep pushing that out. Now, there is a move to say, let's take taxes out of that. And I agree with that. Let's show people what they're paying for air travel and then show them totally separately how much they're paying the government in taxes. That would be a fair way of making it happen. A lot of politicians don't want to posture taxes as taxes, but as part of the cost of flying.
Speaking part of the cost of flying, of course, there's also what people need to pay the pilots, what the various airlines need to pay the pilots. We just had the United Union coming to an agreement. Now there are reports that American, which was about to ratify its agreement, is looking at United and saying, wait a minute, we want a better deal because of what they have. Where kind of are we in terms of the balance of power between the pilots and the airlines?
Well, there is a balance. It's not like one side of having been involved in labor relations, neither side holds all the cards. And in the case of, say, Americans pilots, I think they'd rather dive into the ocean than to go on a strike. But if they have to, labor unions will do that. I think they'll settle. Obviously, they'll go back to the bargaining table, tweak things up to what United has. Then they'll sit there and hope somebody else doesn't come out with a richer contract. They all have to go back. Remember, United's contract is, I think, the second or third one they supposedly have agreed on. So we don't know yet.
What about American Airlines and the potential for a flight attendant strike there? What is that something that is seriously possible? And what would that do? Would the ripple effect be to the industry?
Well, at this point in time, it's part of the bargaining process. You put that out, say, we're going to have a strike vote, but to get from a strike vote to an actual strike, there's a lot of moving parts on that. But it does show the company that the flight attendants are saying, enough of this. We want to get down and get serious. It's part of the program. The last strike American with flight attendants was 92. Mm-hmm. So I don't think you'll see one this time. They'll settle, but I think that's part of the process of saying, look, we'll go to the wall if we have to.
Mike, good to catch up with you. As always, a valuable perspective on all this stuff. Mike Boyd, Boyd Group International President. Appreciate it.
Thank you.